You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Unisys Corporation, maker of Unisys Stealth cybersecurity software. You can't hack what you can't see. Learn more at unisys.com/stealth. From Endless Pools, maker of compact pools for swimming, aquatic exercise, and family fun. Indoors or out. More at endlesspools.com. And from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, working to ensure all Americans have access to health care at rwjf.org. This is NPR.
Good evening. You're listening to WAMU 88.5. 4:59 now, rain and snow in the region, 35 degrees. WAMU 88.5 and Showtime Inc. are offering ski lift passes to Liberty Mountain, Whitetail Resort, or Round Top Mountain Resort. Passes are valid through March. More information is at WAMU.org under events. Tonight at 6 on Marketplace, big tech companies like Apple, Facebook, and Google are asking the government to change their surveillance practices. That story, numbers as well, starts in about an hour at 6 on Marketplace. Winter weather advisory goes into effect as well at 6 o'clock and lasts until 6 tomorrow morning. Otherwise, snow, rain this evening, and snow after midnight, windy as well, with a low of 18 expected tonight. This is member-supported public radio from American University. WAMU Washington, where the mind is our medium, in HD at 88.5, at WRAU 88.3 in Ocean City, Maryland. Streaming at WAMU.org. It's 5 o'clock.
Now, at least you have a reasonable length of time and access to specialists. So it's going to open up a whole new world for us.
The expansion of Medicaid and how it could affect health care for the homeless. It's Thursday, January 2nd, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Audie Cornish. In this hour, a visit to Skid Row in Los Angeles, where there's an outreach effort to get homeless adults on Medicaid. Later, gold medal-winning figure skater Brian Boitano on his role in the U.S. Olympic delegation to Sochi and on announcing he's gay.
This was a time to push on my comfort zone, and the message was so strong that I really felt like I needed to do it at this time.
And the ongoing battle in the world of wine. More winemakers are using screw caps, but cork lovers are steadfast.
When it comes to the higher-end wines, cork is still kind of a must-have.
Now news.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Spear. An intense storm is expected to bring blizzard conditions throughout the night to a number of areas, including coastal Maine and areas of New Hampshire. Emergencies have been declared from Long Island to Cape Cod, and Logan Airport is canceling flights from 8:30 p.m. and expects to resume services late Friday morning. For station WGBH in Boston, Ann Moster reports.
Snow continues to move in from the ocean and is falling along the coast and inland. Up to 14 inches of snow is predicted for much of eastern Massachusetts, and the city of Boston has declared a snow emergency. Governor Deval Patrick says he's monitoring high tides and areas that could flood along the coast.
Temperatures are expected to plummet, with wind chills reaching as low as 25 degrees below zero. That is a very, very dangerous set of circumstances.
The heaviest snowfall is expected throughout the night. For NPR News, I'm Ann Mostu in Boston.
Two of the major newspapers that have published information from documents released by accused National Security Agency leaker Edward Snowden, saying rather than punishment, he should be praised for his disclosures. Both the New York Times and Britain's Guardian newspaper say the former NSA contractors helped spark a global debate over civil liberties and surveillance and should be granted clemency. Snowden's activities in terms of leaking top-secret NSA documents on U.S. surveillance practices have earned him espionage charges in the U.S. Snowden is currently in Russia. U.S. officials and Snowden's Russian lawyer did not immediately return calls seeking comment. Construction spending is strong, increasing 1% in November to its highest level in nearly 5 years. NPR's Craig Wyndham reports the gains were broad-based.
The Commerce Department says residential construction jumped nearly 2% in November after declining the previous month. Spending on construction of single-family homes has shown a year-over-year increase of 18%. There's been an even larger surge in spending on construction of apartments. The National Association of Home Builders says the construction of each new home creates an average of 3 jobs for a year and an ongoing gain of $90,000 in tax revenue. Craig Wyndham, NPR News, Washington.
Fewer Americans were filing first-time claims for unemployment benefits last week. The Labor Department says weekly jobless claims fell by 2,000. The seasonally adjusted 339,000 as companies appear to be laying off fewer employees and boosting hiring. The 4-week moving average was higher in part for a function of seasonal volatility around the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. The nation's unemployment rate declined to 7% in November. Jobless figures for December are due out next week. A weak start on Wall Street for the first official trading day of 2014. Stocks were more or less down across the board with a drop in both energy and technology shares. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 135 points to close at 16,441. The Nasdaq dropped 33 points today. You're listening to NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from the Cy Sims Foundation, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts since 1985. CySimsFoundation.org.
This is WAMU 88.5. Good evening. I'm Pat Rogan. It's 5:04. With the latest on traffic, here's Mike Cremidas. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Pat. Outer loop very heavy before Columbia Pike to I-270. Then it's slow. River Road to 66. Telegraph to the Wilson Bridge and Arena Drive to Greenbelt. Interloop to the Beltway. Heavy at Leesburg Pike past Connecticut. 95 Maryland to Greenbelt. Then Route 50 past Landover Road. Northbound 270 heavy. Beltway to Clarksburg. Northbound Columbia Pike heavy. 216 to Ellicott City. On southbound 395-95 Virginia, you're slow Pentagon to Duke, then Newington to Stafford. Pat?
Thanks, Mike. 35 degrees now in northwest Washington. In Virginia, Governor-elect Terry McAuliffe is choosing a former newspaper publisher and government official as his Secretary of Commerce and Trade. Northern Virginia reporter Michael Pope has the story.
McAuliffe is naming Maurice Jones as the new Secretary of Commerce and Trade. Jones was publisher of the Virginian Pilot in Norfolk for 4 years before becoming Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in 2012. At HUD, he was responsible for the day-to-day operations of an agency with 9,000 employees. Jones previously served under Governor Mark Warner as Deputy Chief of Staff and Commissioner for the Virginia Department of Social Services. The appointment leaves McAuliffe with just one more cabinet position to fill before his January 11th inauguration. He has yet to name a Secretary of Education. Reporting from Alexandria, I'm Michael Pope.
The family of a Rockville man kidnapped and held in Pakistan by al-Qaeda more than 2 years ago is commenting on a recently released video and letter. They say they still aren't convinced Warren Weinstein is alive and are asking for date-specific confirmation that he is indeed living. Last week, he appeared in a video asking President Obama to negotiate his release and had a written note that was dated from early October. His family is concerned about his health and want him released immediately. Winter weather advisory is in effect from 6 tonight to 6 tomorrow morning. Otherwise, snow or rain this evening, then snow after midnight. Windy as well, low of 18. Accumulation around an inch expected. Sunny, brisk tomorrow with a high of 20. 35 degrees now in northwest Washington. I'm Pat Rogan, WAMU 88.5 News at 5:07.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Audie Cornish. 9 million people are expected to gain health coverage under Medicaid. That's after it expands in more than 24 states to cover all poor adults, not just those with disabilities or children under 18. The expansion will also include the nation's homeless, many of whom can now access regular health care for the first time. In Los Angeles, some estimate as many as 54,000 people live on the city's streets, and health workers there are trying to spread the word. Reporter Sarah Varney begins this hour on Skid Row.
If you were led blindfolded from Los Angeles' Grand City Hall a few blocks east, you would know when you entered Skid Row. There's the pungent smell of urine and burning marijuana smoke, and the sound of music and easy laughter, a carnival rising out of misery. This is the chaos that Chris Mack plunges into on most days. Once homeless himself, Chris is an outreach worker for a local community clinic, and he walks the streets to find men and women whose troubled lives might be bettered with routine medical care.
Oh, I'm all right. What you been up to? You all right?
Yeah.
So you do come to my clinic, don't you?
No, I don't.
You haven't been there?
Chris greets a woman perched on an upside-down